news this week, and actually the story was broken by Michael Laws, who said this was going to happen this week, and sure enough it did. The government is essentially moving to get rid of regional councils. Instead, it will use existing local bodies working in cooperation with each other to fulfil the functions of regional councils. And in its broadest terms, Chris Bishop and the government have said regional councils were a level of bureaucracy that the country did not need. But who came up with the idea of regional councils in the first place? And what does that person think of the idea that they're now gone? Well, the guy who did it, who introduced them, was Dr. Michael Basset as part of a Labour Party government. He joins us on the phone now. Michael, nice to talk to you again. Good morning.
And you. I can't claim to be responsible for regional councils, Sean. The first one came about in 1963 in Auckland. And then the second round of regional councils came with legislation in 1974-75, Henry May's changes. But regional councils were part of the changes of 1989. If I can just, they remained part of the scene. If I can just sketch out a little bit of what happened, it might help. Prior to 1989, there were 817 local authorities in New Zealand, little guys. Didn't have it. I mean, you had One Tree Hill Borough, Ellerslie Borough, Newmarket Borough, which had almost no people in it, and so on and so forth. And it was the same in Wellington, lots of little local authorities, same Christchurch. And what happened in 1989 was that there was a huge regrouping of that 817. We've now got, with the passage of time, only about 68 territorial authorities instead of 817. And the net effect of that has been that the capacity of the territories, that is the councils, the net ability, their ability to function on a big scale has lifted enormously. And really, they've slowly but surely made the regional councils a bit redundant. It's the passage of time and the changing demography in New Zealand is really the key factor.
So, in fact, you would say the changes in 89 of getting rid of that plethora of local bodies, that the regional councils were a transition and they were always going to go in the end.
Well, I didn't, and I don't think anybody said at that time that regional councils would go, but they were obviously the vulnerable ones. And if the stronger territorial councils worked, and I do believe they have, then looking back on it, it was pretty clear that regional councils were slowly but surely reduced in significance. And there will always be some regional issues that have to be dealt with. And I think the government recognises that in the statement that was made. I mean, the issues that are regional are things like parks, drainage, water, transport. They don't recognise territorial boundaries. And so you've got to have
water catchments kind of do. You can define a water catchment, can't you?
Well, you can, but it doesn't necessarily tally with the local authority boundaries. I mean, here in Auckland, for instance, water is drawn out of the Waikato now to supplement the Hunua and Waitakere ranges, and water comes from outside of the Auckland, even the greatly expanded Auckland region. So there are always going to be a few issues which transcend the territorial boundaries. And that's why I think it makes sense to have some sort of capacity to talk regional issues. Whether the government's scheme, which they outline, of having their council of mayors, the combined territorial boards, I think they're called. Whether that's the right thing or the best thing, I'm not quite sure. But coming back to what's being proposed, I am reading the ideas that were announced as being proposals which have probably got a 3-year term to them.
Right,
and,
right. So it's going to take a while.
Yes. I mean, at first blanch, my reaction was to say, holy heck, why on earth, when you've just had an election, do you actually then threaten the regional councillors with being turfed out of business? I'm not sure that's what's being proposed. I think they're talking about moving over time, and they're signalling to regional councils.
But Michael, look, you were mates with Roger Douglas. If you're going to do stuff like this, you should just get on and do it.
Well, yes, but you don't want to rush it so quickly that you get it wrong. I mean, my big reforms of 1989 took me 5 years getting there, and I had to make a lot of decisions along the way and do a lot of cajoling of local government people and getting them in the mood to face up to big change. Unless you're going to run a dictatorship, you've got to sort of take along the people with you. And there's a hell of a lot of good people in local government. There are far too many people in local government.
There are far too many people in local government. I'll give you an example. And look, I don't think reforming the regional council structure is going to be an end of it. Wellington City Council had done a report. They have 119 managers that they don't need. 119. It's just remarkable.
Well, here in Auckland, there are at least 1,000 and probably 1,500 surplus staff in City Hall on the payroll being paid by ratepayers that aren't needed. The big awful thing that happened following the formation of One Big City here was that Len Brown and then Phil Goff made no attempt to squeeze the people who'd been drawn into the new council.
They didn't deliver the needed rationalisation of expenditure.
No,
at all.
Dead right. And I think that's true elsewhere.
All right. Okay, so this isn't going to solve every problem. I wondered too if this isn't because councils would seem to me, Michael, through local government New Zealand to have become incredibly party politicised. And local government New Zealand is now basically a woke advocacy organisation that fights for the Treaty of Waitangi and Maori rights and everything. It's not really just a trade association for local bodies. Many people have left local government New Zealand because it's so politicised on a whole range of issues. Local government does itself no bloody favours, really, does it?
I think you might have overstated it a bit. I mean, there isn't any doubt about it that central government politics have lurked in the background at the local level forever. I mean, there were citizens associations and labour associations in Christchurch, in Wellington, in Dunedin, in Auckland. It's always been there, but I think it's probably true that there is a wokeness that permeates the scene, possibly because so many women have gone into local government and they're more prone to wokeness.
Yeah, actually, I'll send you an article that I've done called, it was called Femina, an article out of the United States looking at the expansion of feminine influence in things like the law. And it's a very well-argued case written by a woman that says that is a major problem with all aspects of American society today, particularly in the way that women confront each other or deal with conflict by cancellation and by innuendo rather than having the issue out and moving on with life.
And by trying to be kind.
Look, Michael, while I've got you there, and this, as you say, and I think quite rightly, this isn't going to happen overnight. There'll be consultation. There'll be a lot that can go wrong between cup and lip on this. But I just wonder, at the end of a year, we head into an election year next year. What's your feeling on the political mood at present? And I also know, because you've been part of a cabinet and part of a party that has gone through turmoil and leadership and other things. I'd just be interested in your broad view on the state of the coalition, the leadership of Chris Luxon, and the prospects for next year's election.
Gosh, have we got half a day to talk?
We haven't got half a day, but we've got a few minutes. Just give us your top-of-head thoughts.
Well, I get the distinct impression that the current coalition is fraying. There's an absurd kind of posturing going on by New Zealand First, and even I see in the Herald this morning by National themselves having a go at Seymour and his regulatory
standards
bill. Yes, that went through the other day. I mean, everybody's trying to sort of fight a little corner of their own, and that's a sure sign of trouble. And my feeling is that Labour's problem, of course, is that they are going to be dependent, unless Winston comes to their rescue, on that huge abomination which represents the sort of breakup of the Maori Party, where nobody knows anything about anything much. And 2/5 of 5/8 of F all politically are disputing where they'll be. So going back to Hipkins's problem, where's he going to get his numbers from? He'll have the Greens, who are a rather pitiful outfit these days, but that won't be enough to take him to office. He'll probably be reliant on Winston. And I think Winston is positioning himself so that he will be the kingpin. And
but he's always tried to do that. But the fact is, he said, I won't go with Hipkins.
Well, he says he won't go with Hipkins. But if he could manoeuvre Hipkins into a position where for half of the 3-year term Winnie, would be Prime Minister, I think you'd find he'd go with him. He's desperate to get his photo on the wall, and he's right at the end of his career. And I think you'll see funny things happen.
I don't doubt that there's a lot of water to flow under the bridge, and a lot of milk to be spilt in the next 12 months, Michael. Do you think Luxon's safe? You've been in a party that's dumped a leader, and with some of the most volatile times in politics that, the Labor government that you were part of. What about Luxon? He is remarkably uninspiring, but sometimes that's what a country needs and feels comfortable with.
Yes, except that you have to be able to convey a sense of purpose for a government, and he's not very good at doing that. I mean, just talking about getting us out of the mess that Labor left isn't really much. And that's why I think an announcement like the local government one was an important thing, because it really does pick up a very costly burden that exists on ratepayers in the country, and signals that the government really is prepared to tackle the issue. There are probably a dozen other issues which need to be tackled. I can name several. The Waitangi Tribunal is a classic example of an organisation that has run out of time and needs to have its feathers clipped quite severely.
But the national part of this coalition has shown an incredible reluctance to deal with what might be defined by some as a cultural war issue.
Well, that's right, but you see, that's foolishness. I mean, the public, if you went out and said to the public and polled them, do you think that the Waitangi Tribunal needs to have its budget severely reduced? and its mission curtailed significantly, I'll bet you'd find 50 to 60 to 70% would say yes. But so if you skirt around all the time, avoiding tackling issues because you're just worried about the possible repercussions, then you convey an image to the public of being weak and wet. And unfortunately, that is the image which the present government actually has.
Yeah, or the national part of the present government and its leader. Michael, just one other question for you. And look, we might get you back on before the end of the year. It's just so good chatting with you. Have the Herald invited you back since their ownership changed somewhat? Are you now unbanned by the Herald?
No, not at all. Nor any of its
ancillary publications.
Pieces.
Yeah.
Well, like Leighton Smith and so on. You know, he was part of NZME, and I was just cut off at the knees because I pointed to this weird movement towards Marification that followed the 2020 election, where, and of course, the Public Interest Journalism Fund was involved in all of that because they had to agree to certain rules, and the Herald couldn't get rid of me fast enough.
But I thought they might have, with Jim Grennan taking an increased shareholding, that they might have reneged on that. But obviously, the wokeness persists. Michael, a great pleasure. Thank you for your time this morning.
You're welcome.
Dr. Michael Basset, former cabinet minister in the Labor for Labor.